Namaste Radio is brought to you by your host, the blue-collar goddess, Sarah Nash, and a small crew of guest personalities determined to amuse, entertain, and occasionally astonish you. And now, a different brand of enlightenment streaming live across this galaxy and probably a few more. Namaste Radio on the OMTimes Radio Network.
It's your very own blue-collar goddess, Sarah Nash, as your host, and you're listening to the highly anticipated first live broadcast of Radio Namaste on the OMTimes Radio Network. Welcome to a very different brand of enlightenment. Mercury retrograde is upon us now, full glory and all. One of my favorite people, Vito Mucci, said something a few days ago, and I told him I was going to share it on the air, especially since today's featured guest, Robert Phoenix, is one of the world's top astrologers. And Vito said, retrograde is coming, the first big event in the year of recovery during the humbling winter. I love naming things. I'm silly sometimes, I know. I never really came out of our last retrograde, so this should be a double finisher when it comes through. Get your shit in order. We are all on a springboard and about to be launched into orbit. Get yourself buckled and gather your tools. That's literal. Stop and make a mental note about how you want to manage your mind during the change. Change that encompasses everyone around you. Think about the attitude you want to have during the chaos. Thanks. I'm going to jump back into rebindings pretty quick, but retrograde is usually more violent for them, causing more upheaval. So if a tender treatment is what you want, wait for me to give you the green light sometime next month. Yeah, I sat back and I read that and I was like, wow, Vito, that's awesome. I'd like to actually have him as a guest. He's a shaman and an artist, and he did one of the paintings that I have on my White Light Express altar. The White Light Express is one of my healing endeavors. It's a worldwide healing group based on the power of positive focused intention. Well, anyways, about Vito and channeling, honoring the crazy in you and channeling your inner lunatic is one of my superpowers. And again, speaking of superpowers, in a few minutes, I'm going to introduce the world's top leading astrologer, Robert Phoenix. His amazing series, The 11th House on Gaiam TV, is a testament to his visionary skills, and you can find him online at robertphoenix.com. He's also available for personal consultations. I know for a fact that his ability to navigate through a chart is unparalleled. And I really dig his style mostly because it's like mine. It's gritty, it's no nonsense. And he profoundly delivers his message to you in a way that, I don't know, it kind of makes you feel like you've been sitting with your best friend for an hour and they've just laid out the next phase of your life, you know, while pointing out all the speed bumps, the pitfalls, and the areas that you should avoid if you want to be successful. Also, I give consultations as well. OMTimes Advisors is where you can look me up, and there's a link on my website at namaste.com too. At the end of the hour, I'm going to read the first of what I hope is going to be many Ask the Blue Collar Goddess, the artist formerly known as the Cosmic Hooker, that would be me, oracle questions. This one's about the Super Bowl. Go Seahawks. We're going to give out the 2 awards. Radio Namaste will be presenting weekly, the Authentic Namaste Award and the Father Mulcahy Award. It's really about balance. The Namaste Award is for you to highlight the people in your life who have exhibited the qualities we respect and admire, especially when no one's looking, and just because it's the right thing to do. It's not about the accolades. It's not about, you know, attaboys or whatever. It's about keeping the world a really decent place in spite of all the greed, the lack of consciousness, gossip, and other nonsense that is wrapped up in the ego games that people play. Send me your nomination stories. The contact form is on namaste.com, and we'll send the story of the week winner an alchemy stone provided by one of our noble sponsors, Alchemy Stones, from alchemystone.com, no S. As for the Father Mulcahy Award, it's not the Father Mulcahy from MASH, although I could totally see him handing out this award. It's quite the opposite of the Namaste Award. The Karma Police from thegoodkarmafactory.com have provided citations for us to deliver to someone who has displayed disgusting thoughtlessness, is hopelessly spaced out or is dangerously unaware. Of course, there's just plain rude and obnoxious, but it's always funnier when it's someone who ought to know better, like my father Mulcahy, who is an actual person, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But anyways, when I contacted Robert Phoenix and asked him to grace my airwaves with a chart explanation for the, well, probably the next big deal and monumental dates, I told him that I'd had a recent conversation with a young filmmaker. His name's Peyton Dukes. This kid has an incredible talent for taking an idea and putting it on video. And I'm being nepotistic as hell because he lists me in the credits as a source of inspiration. But anyways, Peyton asked me, well, what next? In reference to some points in his future. Well, I kept seeing the number 33 floating all around him, and we did some quick math and determined that in 2033, he'd be in a prime position in his life. And we began like joking about future apocalyptic events leading to the singularity, which is what Peyton was really focused on. Well, it's my job as a kick-ass psychic and a light worker and an irreverent reverend to put a real positive spin on everything. In fact, I couldn't even read reversals and tarot layouts until I learned how to translate everything to the highest potential. But anyways, Peyton and I, sorry, Peyton, we began talking about the Singularity Event that's supposed to be looming off in the future, and we decided right then and there to nail a date and make it happen. But instead of the apocalypse or an extinction level event, Armageddon style, why not have the Aposacalypse that's putting a positive spin on it? In the numerological system, 2s and 3s work, and we wanted a pattern. So 3, 20, 33, 3 plus 2 plus 3 plus 3 is 11. And if you bring that to the bottom, you got another 2. Well, it's just the two of us, Robert, and at least 2 listeners. What say ye, O soothsayer?
Well, hey, Sarah, thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. And I think you're going to be an absolute smash hit, and I love your format. Sounds great.
Oh, thanks so much. Coming from you, man, that's a heads up. Woo, yes.
But what I want to know is, could somebody qualify for a Father Mulcahy Award and a Namaste Award simultaneously?
Hey, man, I'm all about paradoxes. Why not? Bring
That's
it on.
what I would shoot for.
You would.
I want it all.
Well, you deserve it all.
Well, you know, at least in that instance, I think it would be a kind of an interesting couple of worlds to straddle, you know, so.
Like 2 icebergs.
Kind of, you know, it's when these things, you know, these 2 things are not mutually exclusive. Like you could be an asshole and an avatar at the same time.
Sounds like my dad.
And God bless him.
Yeah. God bless you, Daddy. I love you.
Yeah. So here we are, your first show.
Yeah, here we are. It's my first show. Well, actually, it's my second show, but this is my first live broadcast. The first show was we had a very special guest speaker. His name is Peter Messerschmidt. He's an author and an artist, and he's a really cool guy. As a matter of fact, his other lifetime, he was Zen Master Ted. So he's also my moderator, the ZMT, Zen Master Ted.
And he's also your significant other. So it all ties together. It all
Dude, he is so much my better half. Like he always gets the Namaste Awards and I always get the Father Mulcahy Awards, but tell us about the Aposacalypse 2033.
Well, so just to let you people know out there, Sarah and I were talking last night, and I realized that I actually had to pick up my son during this period, and so what we did is we hustled and we hurried, and we actually did a version of the show. I think 2 versions of the show. We're a show and a half last night, so we're actually kind of time traveling into the future, into the past, into the present, and of course Mercury retrograde Aquarius. We would expect nothing less than that. So the chart is interesting, and what is fascinating about the chart is there's a T-square going on with the Sun and Venus exact at 0 degrees Aries in the 10th house. And we did this at 11:11, and of course we did it for New York City, which seems to be a magnet for these kinds of twin type of events. You know what I'm saying? Twin tower kind of events.
Yeah, there's that too again.
Yeah, we did it for New York, and the midheaven is Pisces, and the midheaven is the crown chakra of the chart. So for this moment in time on this day at 11:11, heaven descends into the chart. Theoretically, if Pisces is the outermost zone of the charts, and in my world it is, and it is the house of the soul, then it is also the gateway to heaven. So when Pisces is on the midheaven, we have the fluid and viscous state of Pisces rushing into the chart, while inside the wheel, the aspirations of humanity are moving outwards towards that very same spot. So this is actually a nice kind of place for Pisces to be in the midheaven. Now,
Hey, wait a minute. Speaking of nice places, we're just going to dial it down here for just a couple of minutes. Now's the chance for everybody to grab a notepad, a cup of tea, or take a dog out. We've got a break coming up here. So I didn't even realize that we'd been on that long. This is awesome. This is exciting. Wow, you're amazing, Robert. Thank you.
I have my power cat right next to me, so it all flows.
I love your power cat. I was like trying to figure out a way to take that little bit of it out for the recording last night. We won't talk about that. We shall never speak of this again. But when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the impending Aposacalypse. We're going to talk about the dysfunctional family reunion that we discovered in the sky when Robert was telling me all about this last night in our impromptu dress rehearsal section. And I can't wait to tell people about the Father Mulcahy Award and how that happened.
All right, we'll go sell some product, and I'll be here in 3 minutes.
Sounds like a plan.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know, I tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hi, my name is Monica and I'm the host of Co-Creating Now. Give yourself an opportunity to connect with your all-knowing higher self and manifest joy, love, and peace together every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And we're back. Hey, thanks for sticking around. You'll be glad you did. In spite of all the joking around Robert and I do, we do respect each other, and I'm supremely stoked that he's my first on-air guest. Robert, we left off at talking about Pisces and a dysfunctional family reunion in the sky.
Yeah, well, before we get into that, I just want to say that I completely approve of your transition and identity shift from the cosmic cooker to the blue collar goddess. I think that that's a really nice transition for you. So congratulations for that.
Well, thank you. It was time to let the cosmic hooker take a step aside and become the grand madam, So the blue collar goddess still, is the artist formerly known as the cosmic hooker. But I decided that there's a lot of other hookers out there, word hookers, astrological hookers. And, I just take a little step up and change the vibration to a little bit higher. Not ego, just better.
I applaud it. So we're going to talk about apparently the dysfunctional family. Now we have a father-daughter relationship up in the 10th house. No, I'm just kidding. It's the Sun Venus conjunct at 0 degrees Aries, and 0 degrees Aries is the exact degree of the astrological new year, and it's very rare when the Sun in Aries and Venus in Aries are conjunct together at that time. So this is a pretty good combination to have, because it represents in a lot of ways the dawn of a new day, right? That's what this conjunction in the 10th house is representative of. However, it does not come easily, because there is a square with Mars down in the 6th house, and Mars in Sagittarius wants to be sovereign, it wants to be authentic, it wants to be truthful, and in the 6th house, it wants to get past the bullshit. It's all about Virgo and getting real. And there's a square, because in the 10th house, there is almost a kind of denouement or predestined climax. Whether it is organic or synthetic, we can't really tell per se, but Mars in Sagittarius has an issue with it. Mars in Sagittarius in the 6th house says, this is not what it appears to be. This does not seem all that real, right? So now, conversely, there's another part of this T-square going on, and that's happening in the 12th house, which is the hidden house.
Right.
And there's Uranus.
Skeletons in the closet. That's what I want.
Uranus, which is the ruling planet of Aquarius, that's there at 27 Gemini. So that's a little schizo, and it's hanging out Saturn in Cancer at 0 degrees. And this is not the best place for the sign of Cancer, because Saturn, of course, is ruled by Capricorn, and Saturn wants to compress.
Well, Saturn is like what you said, that Lee Van Cleef in the sky. Yeah,
Saturn is the Lee Van Cleef of the zodiac. I put that on my blog, my last blog post. That was so heavy. Cancer wants to nurture. Cancer wants to love. Cancer wants to grow. And Saturn says there's a price to pay. You got to pay a toll for that. Nothing comes easy with Saturn. So there's a square between those energies and Venus and the Sun up in the 10th house. It's kind of like, here it is. Here is the blossoming of something new. And yet there are these polarizing and conflicting factors which are not really going peaceful into that new dawn of the new day, so to speak. So it's an interesting confluence and dynamic energy, and where there's dynamism, there's creativity. There's also a fair amount of flow here, but the flow is happening more in the 9th house, where we have Jupiter and Mercury. Mercury is in receptive Pisces, and Jupiter's in an Aquarius. Pluto is also in Aquarius, will be smack dab in the middle of the quote-unquote official age of Aquarius.
Well, so when did the age of Aquarius, seriously, I've got to nail you on this. When is that? What is that supposed to be? Because we're talking about dates and things. The Aposacalypse is coming in the age of Aquarius. When did the age of Aquarius really happen, Robert?
Well, in my estimation, it happened on 11/22/1963, because that was the assassination of John F. Kennedy, which took place on here's your 33 again, 11/22, and Saturn was in the final degrees of Aquarius. And Saturn is almost like a template or a seal in some ways. So when events happen in Saturn, because Saturn rules time, it actually can impact time itself.
Oh, so you're talking about templates and seals. This is like breaking one of the 7 seals, the sign of Armageddon or the impending apocalypse. So, yeah.
I mean, I think, when you go back to what happened with Kennedy, there was a definite shift in the timeline. And, we don't have enough time to get into it. But when he dies, when he is assassinated, which is the fall of Camelot, there is a major restructuring of the collective psyche. Well, first is a major deconstructing of the collective psyche. We called that the 1960s. And then there is a restructuring, which is what I would call the false or the synthetic new age. or the Age of Aquarius, which took place on 11/22/1963. And there's other stops along the way, like, of course, 9/11, when George Bush says for the first time that we are living in the New World Order. And and that comes to play again 10 years later when those planes hit the Twin Towers. And what we have as a result of that is the end of duality, or theoretically symbolic duality, and the rise of the one world Trade Center, which is symbolic of the one world order, or the false or synthetic Aquarian age.
Well, listen, I think what's going to happen, and we talked about this last night too when we were doing our dress rehearsal, just in case, but the end of false realities. The Aposacalypse is pretty much everybody waking up from this Truman Show reality going, wait a minute, what the heck?
Yeah, I mean, there is certainly the possibility for that, because, you know, the key, I think, to this chart is in the 9th house with Mercury and Jupiter.
What does the 9th house represent?
Well, it's higher consciousness, and it's belief systems. It's the expansion of one's own sort of personal relationship to beliefs. You know, the 9th house, I call the 9th house the upper room, because it's not quite at the midheaven, but it's getting there. And when you get to the 9th house, you're literally stepping off into kind of the space of the mystic, but you do it through kind of orthodox and exoteric versus esoteric means. So there's the potential for awakening in the 9th house. It's ruled by Sagittarius, so it also has to do with deal with truth. And Mercury is in Pisces there, so there's the potential for revelation. The revelation is coming from the 12th house. That's where it's emanating from. And Jupiter and Mercury are the receptors for that. So that's where I think the sexy sauce is. It's in the 9th house. And it's about what comes through from the mystery of the 12th, not necessarily what's being shown or illuminated by the Sun and Venus conjunction in the 10th, or the dawn of a new day. So this is an interesting day.
What's going on with the midheaven? Because I loved how you...
Pisces, you know, and it's like, when Pisces comes around, people can... The thing about Pisces is that it's reflective and it's also receptive at the same time. So people can, you know, pin their own projections onto Pisces. They can infer their own meanings in a lot of ways. So, you know, let's say, for instance, this is Project Bluebeam. Some people could be seeing an alien invasion. Some people could be seeing the second coming of Christ. And some people could be seeing a holographic theater that's being played out in 3D and call bullshit on it. So this could be, you know, an aspect of that type of manifestation.
See, I think that's what the singularity is about. I think the singularity is people just having this aha moment. I think it's going to be this arena, literally, where people just stand back and suddenly the matrix breaks wide open. And I think people are just going to start busting up. I think they're just going to start laughing. And we were talking about the Rothschilds too last night, and how there's this contingent of power that holds on to all this money. They don't give a shit which side wins, which side loses, because, you know, it's all pudding for them.
Well, as long as they're in control, they don't care who wins or loses. I think maybe the best case scenario is to trick them that they would still be in control, which could happen, you know, in some way.
So basically, if we just turn the signs and the symbols back on them, like if we get a contingent of all these chaos magicians, the ones that are out there just going, we don't care, we're just going to throw, you know, a hand grenade into a theater and scream fire and run out and just laugh about it. I mean, this seems to be happening a lot, just on micro and macro levels.
Well, I think what would be really interesting is if we have like a group or a committee, right? And we all got together and we all just said, hey, you know, we're tired of all of this, you know, conflict, and we're tired of all the war. We're, you know, this has been an attrition upon our souls. You know, we're just going to come straight to the gates, you know, of the empire, and we're just going to surrender. You know, you don't have to fight for our souls anymore. We're just going to surrender. Go ahead. Run the show. You know, but what would that do? Well, that'd take the wind right out of their sails, because number one, they need the conflict in order to attain power, right? This is how they attain power. So if we just made a formal surrender, if we walked up to Lord Rothschild's manor with a white flag and said, hey, you know, we're here, we got 10 million signatures, just run the damn thing. It's what you want to do. Just run it. Go ahead.
First of all, there'd be a lot of denial. I have no idea what you're talking about, which is a weekend.
But I think it would be the most subversive thing we could do, because they wouldn't be ready for it. They wouldn't have modeled that, in their little Tavistokian computers and all their little think tanks. That would just be that would be the most asymmetrical thing to do. Would be to walk up there and just surrender with all these. We're ready. You guys think you're really good at running the show? We're not going to put up a fuss or fight. Show us what you got.
So basically,
show us what you got.
It's like what you said last night. We need to just stay in our homes, not watch any media. You said what would take like 60 days, 30 days?
Yeah, we can do that. That's one way of doing it. Just,
everybody just stay at home for 33 days. Don't do anything.
Yeah, stay at home. And, if you want to change the world, stay at home and do nothing. I mean, really.
I want to stay at home and do nothing. Can I stay at home and do nothing?
But I think the surrender thing is even more subversive.
It'll never happen because people are too wrapped up in what it feels like to surrender, and they think it's failure. I mean, there's a difference between surrendering to the impossible, and then there's surrendering to the possible. Again, there's that duality thing, the light and the dark.
I think there's a real difference between surrender and giving up.
Aha!
And what I see with people now is, because we're in a war now. I don't care how you slice it. We are in a war. It's a spiritual war. It's an economic war. It's a war for our intention. It's a war for our souls. And we're in a war, and people are getting beaten down every day with this war. And the end result is people giving up. And if people give up, then it's resignation. Now, people surrender, it's conscious, right? So if we surrender, it's like, we're going with the flow. Hey, come on. You're really good at this. You've got all this power. You've got all this technology.
Hey, speaking of power and technology, I think they're going to cut us out here in just a second. So when I come back, we'll talk about this war.
Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
The Conscious Parenting Radio Show provides inspiration and resources for loving, empowering, and respecting your children and yourself. Join me, Timothy, every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time as we consciously explore proven ways of living together in happiness, health, and harmony.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Join Elliot Jollish, the business therapist, each Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Elliot Jollish Hour, as he interviews business experts on your behalf. And you're invited to email your business questions to questions@ecjgroup.com for answers, live, on air every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Elliot Jollish Hour. Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio.
Howdy and namaste. I'm still honoring the shining lunatic in each of us, and it's back to the man of the hour, Robert Phoenix.
Hey, so I thought that guy said the conscious parody hour. And then I heard it again. It was like, oh, it's conscious parenting. Conscious parenting hour.
Well, it's a little bit of both there.
I was really intrigued by the conscious parody hour. That would be interesting.
Well, maybe we should maybe have a future segment.
That would be fun. The conscious parody segment.
Well, yeah, it's right up
There's a
there with
lot of-
Radio Namaste.
There's a lot of room for conscious parody.
I think we
That's
should
what-
corner that market, sort of like what do you call that, a square? When you were describing what squares were to me last night, because I'm really astrologically, I have like no clue. It's so over my head. And that's why we need people like you to break it down for us.
Well, it's really funny because I introduced my son to the whole concept of L7. And he's like, L7? L7? What's L7? You know, if you put an L together with a 7, you get a square. And that's what they called squares back in the 60s.
L7s?
L7, yeah. That band, L7 from Washington, that was based on the whole concept of the square. The square is an interesting geometric shape. In astrology, it is a 90-degree angle. And if you were to stick your arm out at a 90-degree angle and put a 30-pound weight in your arm, it would get tired very quickly.
Oh, yeah, that would break my shoulder.
But it would also build the muscle up. And so this is what squares do, is they build muscle, they build character. You know, people, they fret when they have squares in their charts. Oh.
How many squares are on this chart?
Let's see. Well, there's that T-square that I was talking about, which is pretty significant because it is leaning, it's in...
Wait, what's a T-square?
It's leaning towards cardinality because Saturn is in a wide conjunction with the ascendant, which is a cardinal point. The Sun and Venus are at 0-degree cardinality in Aries, 10th house, cardinal house, Capricorn. So it's a pretty significant T-square. And the energy, the verticality is rising up towards a Venus-Sun conjunction. And then there are some other squares happening. There's that Mars square with in Sagittarius, which is squaring off against the Sun, and which is squaring off against Venus. And then there's a square between the Moon and Jupiter, and the Moon and Mercury, and Pluto. So there's, you know, the chart is pretty much built on significant squares. The only thing that is not being squared in the chart is Neptune, which has a trine with Mars, and that is compassion. That is trying to find some level of compassion, healing, and transcendence.
So there's a lack of compassion on this particular event?
No, there's not a lack of compassion. There is an effort to getting to compassion.
Ah, okay. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So this dysfunctional family reunion, basically between, you know, we've got the Lee Van Cleef Saturn in Cancer, you know, which is the nurturing mother who never is heard because of the wildly abusive and drill sergeant father who just glares at everyone with an evil thing in his eye. We've got Uncle Santa Claus with the Jupiter skipping on through, and then something going on with Pluto. So to me, it just sounds like all these people basically are going to be showing up at this monumental singularity moment, and suddenly everybody's going to realize, what were we fighting about? What was happening? What was the point? It's all happening in the 12th house, which is all about these secrets and things that are hidden. We were talking about how they were institutions.
Yeah, well, the 12th house is, you know, it represents institutions, hospitals and brothels and insane asylums.
Yeah, but like hidden places. Hidden places.
Yeah, it's the house of the soul. I mean, kind of what I'm seeing here with this chart, the more that I look at it, is I'm seeing something fairly heavy and not all that supportive as it relates to family. That's what I'm seeing here, because Saturn Cancer, that's roots, that's family, that's hidden. Uranus brings a kind of unusual, kind of Aquarian sort of bent to this thing, you know, which would be something along the lines of a social mandate where your children are not your children and that they're raised by other people. You know, when I was at Damanhur, they had kind of an interesting relationship.
Oh my God, you've been to Damanhur?
Yeah.
Oh my Lord, I can't. Oh my. Okay. Whoa. Everybody just take a step aside. Robert, can you tell us about Damanhur?
Well, I was there back in 2002. I went there during the sign of Aquarius, and I was actually there on the full moon, the Leo full moon. So I was only there for 2 days, and I took part in kind of a full moon ritual there at Damanhur. And the founder, Falco, at that time was still alive. He's now since passed away. And I got there late. I was supposed to be there on Sunday, and I got there on Sunday night. Actually, I think I got there Monday morning.
Let's tell people where this place is, though.
It's in Italy. It's kind of at the base of the Alps. It's near a town called Ivrea, which is where Olivetti Typewriters was born. It is not far from Turin. So in order to get there, you've got to go to Turin, and then you've got to take a train to Ivrea. So it's at the base of the Alps, and the community was started by a group of artists who just started digging into the side of this hill because they wanted to create kind of a temple-like experience.
Oh boy, did they.
And they wound up doing that, and they created the Temple of Man. And it's a pretty impressive temple. You know, it uses esoteric symbols throughout the ages. Now, unfortunately, I was not able to go into the temple because I missed my ticket to the temple, but I got to hang out at the community, and I was being shown around by this absolutely stunning Italian woman. And I thought to myself, they've got to do this on purpose. Like, they have got to have the Italian goddess showing the single men around here to kind of, bring them into the community. And she was actually quite nice. And I took part in this class on multidimensional physics, which was really interesting.
So you were talking about what they did with their children there.
Yeah, so their whole concept is, it's a very Aquarian concept, which I kind of like in some ways, but it's also somewhat voluntary. So let's say, for instance, in the quote-unquote real world, you were a gardener and you specialized in growing organic vegetables and plants. You would think that your expertise would fit right into a community like this. No, it wouldn't, because they would ask you to do something else. They would ask you to do some other thing, like maybe get into clerical work or be a messenger or whatever that thing was that wasn't a gardener, maybe a teacher. So that was sort of the Aquarian bent of that community, that they would flip things over. But as far as the family goes, after you stayed there for a year or two, you could pretty much pick who you wanted to live with. So if you had a daughter and your daughter really liked these people that were a couple of houses over, she could elect to stay with them. And within the precepts of Damanhur, with consent, it would be allowed. So their model of parenting and family was fairly fluid. But if you wanted to stay with your family, that wouldn't be a problem either. There was just the potential for a different kind of experience, more novelty, more growth, more change. The potential for having a connection with somebody that you might have a soul connection with that may not be your parent. Which can be the
basically,
case.
What they do is they champion the idea that it does take a village to raise a child.
They do. And at the same time, it's not something that's forced. So it's not like you are forced to give up your kid or anything like this. It is, and there has to be agreement. So it's not like, hey, I'm running off with, Giovanni. Mm-hmm. Of course, he wouldn't be Giovanni. He'd be like, I don't know, Otter, because they all have animal names.
Really? What was the animal name of your stunning guide?
It was some, comely songbird or something like that. I'm serious about that. She was like some kind of songbird.
Interesting.
And I said to her, I said, I'm really interested in staying at this place, but I have to tell you, it feels like a lot of the really good names are taken.
Oh,
so
gosh.
If I wanted to live here in like 10 years, could I put a deposit on a name, that's still available? Because I don't want to show up and be like Golden Mollusk or something like that. That's really not, I don't want that.
What's wrong with Golden Mollusk? It sounds like, what is Golden that, like mollusk, a Fibonacci sequence or something?
At that time, I just was not into the concept of being a mollusk. I'm trying to, impress, the Italian goddess songbird. So I wanted a more heroic name, like who knows,
Well, it sounds like Damanhur and places like that are going to be ready for the Aposacalypse. But
what's interesting about Damanhur is that it's state-sponsored in some ways. And it's its own entity, You go there, and they have like an instant teller where you can change your money in. And you give them liras and you get back Damanhur currency.
What do you use that for? So is that sort of like going to Circus in Las Vegas or what?
Well, you can buy things. They have a store there. And
What kind of things?
Yeah, you can buy all kinds of stuff, olive oil and meat, and they have a little restaurant, a little cafe. They got a gift shop. So you can use, it's like, what the heck,
I was really excited when they started following me on Twitter.
When in Damanhur, do as the Damanhurians. Yeah, well, maybe they're trying to recruit you.
Well, I bet you they are, because I'm awesome.
Yeah. So that could be your next pit stop. Would be Damanhur.
They have books out there, and I saw some of their designs online with regard to their Temple of Man, and I know I'm taking up some more of your time, but I wanted you to tell the listening audience about symbols and signs and things that we can do to prepare ourselves for the Singularity event, and what may or may not happen next, especially on this date of March 20th, 2033. We did talk quite a bit last night about signs and symbols and how the overlords, the Rothschilds, the Illuminati, those, which really bothers me because Illuminati means enlightened and light. But we're the Illuminati, not them. Damn it! I want to take back my power. So
well, yeah, have at it. This is your moment and exercise in time. I'm not attached to light or dark. I'm good with either one.
Well, we have to deal with it no matter what. It's not being attached to it. It's just recognizing it, Robert.
I think, I'm a true mutable being. And I think that there are times where we aspire towards light, and there are times when darkness is really appropriate. So I don't,
only when you're trying to sleep, because
when I talk about darkness, this is, I used to get into this with New Agers back in the 90s, because I used to live in Marin County. And it was enlightenment, light. And I would see all these people running around with these enormous shadows. And it's like, you're not getting to enlightenment until you go through endarkenment.
Okay, we'll stop right there. We're going to come back with some more enlightenment in just a couple of minutes. And Robert will break it down for you.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millisers, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Right on. So we're talking about the light and the dark and everything in between. There's all those 50 Shades of Grey with Robert Phoenix. Woo! How was that?
Hey. Speaking of light and dark, well, Bill Cosby dropped there, right?
Oh.
Hey.
Yeah.
Can't help it.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about the beloved the Cosby event. My goodness, good Lord, good Lord, good Lord. I don't know what. There you go, light and dark, light and dark.
Anyway, I used to hang out in Marin County, and enlightenment, illumination, illumination. And I would say, you got to go through the endarkenment first. And
Oh God, yeah.
so
I like
and
that.
that to me is an ongoing process in a lot of ways, because, our shadows remind us of who we are, where we came from.
Yeah.
And there's also a tremendous amount of creativity that is locked up inside of our shadow if we can face it and embrace it. So it's an ongoing exercise in a lot of ways, and to exercise that into something that is pure light, or without contrast, without shade, at least for me. I'm just speaking for myself. That's kind of an interesting. But I also understand that we also need to have the ability to shine a light on areas of our lives and areas outside of our lives in the macro that do need lights shown upon. And in that sense, I'm all for it. So bring that on.
Yeah, I'm all for that too. I like that, endarkenments. We have enlightenment, we have endarkenments. And, I personally just went through a very, very difficult period within the last few years where I really just looked my shadow in the face and went booga, booga, booga.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
It's a good
It was
thing.
absolutely terrifying. I thought I was like cosmically slapped psychically over and over and over again. And finally it was about learning how to value myself. And there's something funny. My husband often wanders around the house and he's always going, it's not called everybody loves me esteem, it's called self-esteem. And learning how to honor and appreciate your inner light, your inner dark. And what was it, Alanis Morissette song? You love all my light parts and you love all my dark parts. And something I'm trying to quote song lyrics at this point. But yeah, I think the Aposacalypse, Robert, is coming. It definitely, it's coming. And I think that we nailed the date here. And I know that on March 20th, back in, I think it was 1776 or 1876. Anyway, I got to pull this up over here. It looks like the Great Fire of Boston destroyed 349 buildings in 1760. And in 1976, Patty Hearst was convicted of armed robbery on that day.
You mentioned that last night when we were talking, and I remembered that I used to work at this drugstore that Patty Hearst would come into. And, people would go, ooh, there's Patty Hearst. Ooh, there's Patty Hearst.
I wonder why.
One day she actually came into my line and bought a bunch of stuff. So I actually checked out Patty Hearst at the checkout stand. There's my
how was that? Was that your Patty Hearst moment?
That was my Patty Hearst moment. And, it was really underwhelming, I have to tell you.
Well, what's overwhelming though is this amazing time that you spent with me here on my Radio Nahmaste with OMTimes Network. I really, really appreciate your time. It's been overwhelming, not underwhelming, overwhelming, and I have sincere gratitude for your presence here and for telling us all about the Aposacalypse.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for having me on. Like I said, I think you're going to be brilliant. I think you're going to do great. They're very lucky to have you. And
I'm lucky to have them.
Yeah, and I think that I've set the bar pretty high here. So good luck to the people that are going to follow me on Sarah's show. That's all I have to
say. Thanks, Robert. I appreciate it. I hope to have you back someday, brother.
I would love to. And remember my website, robertphoenix.com. And you can hear me on the radio as well, Fridays on Blog Talk on Free Association Radio, which Sarah has been a guest on a number of times. So there you go. And thanks again, Sarah. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate you. Namaste, brother. Namaste. Okay, folks. Well, now we're going to wrap it all up with the Ask the Blue Collar Goddess Oracle readings. We've got the Father Mulcahy Award and then the Namaste Award. And I can't believe that it's like practically almost been an hour. I'm sitting here looking at the time, and we've got Zen Master Ted moderating, and he keeps handing these little notes to me to let me know to keep on top of the time check here. But let's start with Father Mulcahy. we're going to start with Father Mulcahy, because Father Mulcahy was the officiating priest at my cousin's funeral. I was handling the estate as a legal administrator after he passed, and since there wasn't anyone immediately capable of managing this disaster, basically it was me. And the first week of my cousin's sad demise, he had a heart attack at church. He literally keeled over on the piano. I was busy trying to maintain the family questions, arrange a funeral, and manage his business and field inquiries from church and the community. And while I was just supposed to be having a small vacation with my mom in Palm Springs, my cousin, he actually died during this vacation. And by the way, I talk to the dead. I still give him grief about that, and he ignores me usually. Anyways, when I finally managed to call Father Mulcahy, who was the officiating priest, he said to me in his very Irish brogue, "I've been sitting here waiting for your call." like he was the center of the universe, like the one and only thing that I should have been paying attention to. And I was in the car. I was driving to the funeral home, and Peter was driving. Don't give me hell about driving and talking either. Anyways, I said, "I've been running around like nuts, Father Mulcahy. I didn't know you had it all handled, and why didn't you call me?" It was like, all the time you could have saved us. And I guess that means we've got 2 funerals to attend now. One for one man. We might have some extra cookies. And how about you? And there was this absolute shocked silence. And he's like, "Are you a Catholic?" And I said, "Well, I was born and raised in Padre until I became a Buddhist Mormon. But since we're both, Melchizedek priests, it's good that we have 2 funerals to take care of, one for you and one for me. And how about those cookies?" And he literally started laughing. But today's Father Mulcahy Award comes to us from, oddly enough, from somebody I know. She pointed out that she said the best potential award recipient for this is Angel is her real name. Go figure. My little sister-in-law. Evidently, it says, by her reaction to my bringing up touchy areas to my brothers, her husband included, during November of 2013, she has chosen to no longer speak with me, my brother, or my mother. The touchy subject areas were how badly my brothers were treating my mother and my younger brother, as well as myself from time to time. I brought up examples that everyone had done poorly to my mom, myself, and my brother, as well as the things in their own lives, to prove the point that although none of us are perfect, no one really cares as long as it isn't hurting anyone. Nor are their mistakes or poor choices anyone else's business but their own. They didn't like it. So now, evidently, Angel refuses to be anywhere where she is, to the extreme that she ruined her daughter's 21st birthday. And on and on and on. It sounds like this woman is truly sickening. And she's allowing her selfish and egotistical hatefulness to affect her daughter and the family as a whole. And it sounds like she's like she's the worst example of being unenlightened, and she definitely deserves this award. As I sit here and I look at the other awards that we've got to hand out, the Namaste Award, I would very much like to hand out to the network administrators and the bigwigs and the brains and the minds and the love and the light behind OMTimes Radio. And that would be Leonie and Christopher Buckland. They have exhibited above and beyond the ability to just muddle through a lot of really what is the word? Zen Master Ted. Duplicitous, yes, duplicitous. It's a reading word. The back and forth behavior from people outside of their circle, and they've been able to manage and maintain with great refined diplomacy, I think. And they are a shining example to me of people who keep their eye on the ball, maintain a sense of light and love throughout seemingly overwhelming odds, especially with lots of schedule changes and whatnot. And I admire them so much. And in spite of me sometimes losing my temper, and sometimes, me having moments where I'm just like, what the heck am I going to do? I have to say, they sort of patted me on the head and said, they're there. They didn't lose their cool. And that's, I got to say, I'm super, super impressed with that. Last but not least, I know we got to wrap it all up. Next week's show, we've got Kimberly Palm. She's the healer's healer. She's going to be telling us about her network program that she's developed to teach doctors how to heal themselves and move through life. Don't forget, you can find out everything you need to know about this show and IOM Radio by going to namaste.com. That's namaste with an H. NAHMASTE. And as always, I want to thank my featured guest, Robert Phoenix. Don't forget to find him on robertphoenix.com. And thank you to all the beautiful people out there for joining me today on Radio Namaste, brought to you by the OMTimes Network and our sponsors. I look forward to another hour with you next week. Hopefully I'll be able to hit all my points. I didn't realize that an hour had flown by. And don't forget to honor the crazy in you as you honor the crazy in me, and vice versa. Zen Master Ted, do we have any other points that we've got to bring up? How many more minutes we got left, buddy? I don't want to leave any dead air there. We got 2 minutes? About 2 minutes. Zen Master Ted. That gives me just a second here to go from the Blue Collar Ask the Oracle. I'll do that online. You know what? Hit me up online, folks. I'll look forward to seeing you out there. Till next week. Namaste.
Free your mind